Hey everyone, welcome back, and let's write some more neat code today. So today let's solve the problem, maximum matrix sum. So this is honestly a very fun one for me, and maybe it wasn't fun for you. So I want to quickly mention that I think one of my advantages when it comes to Leetcode and just problem solving in general is that I enjoy it. A lot of people, when they see a problem like this that doesn't necessarily fall into a bucket of problems that they've already seen before, they panic. They read the description and then they think, okay, there doesn't seem to be a straightforward way to solve the problem. They don't know how to solve it. The intuition isn't clear. They might just panic and start going through things that they've memorized in the past. I don't know, a spiral order, maybe that'll help, DFS, BFS, who knows? So let me walk you through my thought process. We're given a square matrix. It could have positive values, negative values, or zero. We want to try to maximize the sum of the matrix. The only operation we are allowed to do is change the sign of an element. And that's what they mean when they say we can multiply it by -1. All that's ever going to do is change the sign of a value. It won't change the absolute value. But we can't do it one by one because, of course, if we could do it one by one, then the solution would be trivial. You just take the absolute value of every single number and sum all of them up, and that would be the result. That's the maximum sum. We're not trying to necessarily change the matrix. All we want to do is compute the maximum possible sum and return it. So it's not that simple. The rule is this. We can pick any two adjacent squares and change the sign of both of them. So two adjacent squares horizontally or also vertically. And those are the rules of the game. That's the entire problem. If you don't think any further beyond that, this problem is nearly impossible to solve. You really have to make some observations. So let me show you two ideas that I had in my head. Perhaps there is some kind of traversal we could do in an intelligent order such that we could then maximize the sum. Like we could have some kind of greedy approach. That was one idea that I had. And given that this is a square matrix, probably that type of traversal would just be a straightforward one from top to bottom, left to right. And then what the key in that solution is going to be, what is the operation that we're doing to maximize the sum? Of course, if all the values that we were given in the input are positive, there's nothing really we need to do. So the second idea that I had was kind of similar to the first one. We know that if we could do it individually, one square at a time, change the sign of it, then we could just take the absolute value of the entire thing. And my second idea was, well, maybe it's still possible that the solution is always going to be the absolute value of each of these summed up together. Now, this is literally a counterexample of why that's not the case, but I still had that idea. The reason I think that that second idea is important, I'll just write absolute value, sum of that. I don't know if this is descriptive, but just putting that as the second idea. Even if one of these ideas turns out to be wrong, or maybe even both of them turn out to be wrong, and that's the case, both of these actually will not work. So you might think, well, I'm just wasting my time by exploring these ideas. But the clues that you get by determining that this solution doesn't work, then you ask, well, why didn't it work? The answer to this question will give you a clue, and that's very important. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Maybe if you're a genius, you probably would have explored like the second approach first. I did not. I explored this one first, and I'll show you what the observations I made were. I quickly realized that just trying to traverse the matrix would not work because of this. Suppose, let's say the matrix, like the first value is a -1. Okay, I want to flip the sign of it. How do I do that? Because I have to do two at a time. So my choice is to do this or to do this. Maybe I try to be greedy. Maybe the value to the right of this is a +2. Maybe the value below this is like a +1. So I know that if I want to change this to a +5, I have to then turn this guy into a -1, or I have to turn this into a -2. That's a price worth paying because the delta was still good. Like the overall difference increased. So maybe that's a choice that you could make. But let me show you a counterexample of why that wouldn't work. Consider this relatively simple example. I personally didn't need to imagine like a very large matrix to realize that this greedy approach that I kind of suggested would not work, and that the approach that I'm suggesting would actually require backtracking, making the approach very inefficient, probably something like 2 to the power of n, or maybe even 2 to the power of n squared. I'm not 100% sure. But given the constraints of this problem, I think it's obvious that that probably isn't the intended solution. And also just the nature of the problem, without even looking at the constraints, you can kind of imagine that a backtracking approach like this is very complicated to code up anyway. But let me kind of just dig into this example. Think of this for a second. We're here, we're at -5. This is a one-dimensional array. It's not even a matrix. So I look at these two. Well, ideally, I want to change this into a +5, but if it means turning this into a -6, then the delta is negative. So I don't do it. I actually don't change the sign of this. So now I'm over here. I see that, okay, well, I can turn this into a -6, and then I can turn this into a +7. The delta there is positive. So is this the end solution? No, because look, there is a better way. We could have actually changed this, and then we would have gotten this, +5, and then -6. This would have still been -7. And then I changed these two, because some elements can be changed twice. So then I would have ended up with a matrix like this one, all positives. So that's why the greedy approach won't work. It would require backtracking. Were there any clues with this approach? Well, we kind of realized just by going through an example that we can change elements twice, or maybe even more than twice. Consider this example over here. You can see that I have 4 -10s over here. I could change these two, and then this would be positive and this would be negative. And then I could change these two. This would be positive, and then this would be back to positive. I could change these two, and then I could change these two, and basically we'll end up with a square with all +10s. So now the problem is starting to seem difficult. This gives me a hint that probably a traversal is actually not going to be the solution, because if it is, it seems pretty damn complicated. Now let's go back to that idea I said originally. Can we just take the absolute value of everything and sum them up? I already know the answer to that is no, but why not? Why can't we do that? Why is it impossible to turn every one of these positive in this matrix? Well, if I pick these two to flip, yes, they'll become positive, but we'll have one negative remaining. And so in this case, the fact that we have to have a negative remaining tells me, well, at the very least, we can be greedy and then choose the most negative number. So that's why the solution to this problem is we only flip these two, and we leave this -1 here. And when you have that matrix, if you try to change the sign of this one, you recognize you do have to do it 2 at a time. So this is the choice, or maybe this is the choice, or maybe this is the choice. In any of these cases, yeah, you'll flip this guy to positive, but you'll flip one of the other ones to negative. And it doesn't really matter the value of them. It seems like if you end with one negative value, it's always going to be like that. It kind of makes sense, because think about this. We had 3 negative numbers. We can only flip the sign 2 at a time. So yeah, you could take 3 and reduce it down to 1 negative number in the best case. I mean, I guess the best case would be that the elements are adjacent. At least that's the simple case. So I guess that kind of implies that if we had an even number of negative numbers, suppose 2, that we could theoretically reduce it to 0. Well, does the geometry matter? Does the position of those negative numbers matter? If they're adjacent, it's easy enough. What if they're not adjacent? The reason I'm exploring this, by the way, is because I'm getting back to the idea of why can't I just take the absolute value of everything and sum them up? This is telling me that we can if we have perhaps an even number of negative values, given that we're reducing the count of the negatives 2 at a time. Well, let's consider an example in terms of like that geometry I was talking about. I'm not going to consider like the values of any of these, so I'll just make them 1 to keep it simple. Imagine I had a -1 at like this corner, and I had a -1 at this corner, and everything else is a positive. Is it possible to reduce this matrix to all being positive? Well, I would have to flip this one. I'd have to make it positive, and I'd have to pick one of these to make it negative, either that or that one. Let's just pick this guy over here. So now this guy's negative. Ideally, we'd have both of the negative numbers next to each other, We didn't start with that matrix, but maybe we can build a matrix like that. Maybe I just noticed a pattern. I didn't actually do anything other than moved the negative sign that was over here to a different position. And it looks like I can do that 4 different ways: up, down, left, right. So I'm going to play a little game of snake, and I'm going to take that negative sign and move it all the way to the other negative sign. So I'm going to turn this positive, this is negative. I'm going to turn this positive, this is negative. And now that these are adjacent, I'm going to flip both of them. You're positive and you're positive. You look at it, we just created a tiny little snake. And now that we've made that key observation, intuitively it becomes obvious to us that whether we have 2 odd numbers or 4 odd numbers or 8 odd numbers, or sorry, not odd numbers, negative numbers, regardless of where they are in the matrix, we should be able to reduce the count down to 0. Now, if we have an odd number like 3 or even 5, regardless of where they are in the matrix, we can get it down to 1. But that's the best that we can do. So now how does all of that information apply to this problem? Because this whole game of snake seems complicated. We actually don't have to do that. All we really want to know is what is the max sum. So how do these observations help us? Well, it goes back to the idea I had earlier. Yes, we can't just take the absolute value of all of these and add them together, unless the count of negatives is even. So first, let's determine that. In this example, it is 3 negative numbers. So that tells us at the very least, one of these numbers has to be negative. You tell me, which one of these are we going to choose? Probably the one that has the smallest absolute value, not necessarily the smallest value, because we know we're dealing with negatives and positives. I could have something that's like a -7. That is technically the smallest value, but I don't want that to be negative. I'd rather have 1 to be negative because the smallest absolute value is the best. So now the solution to the problem is relatively simple. You just get the entire sum of the matrix, and then you count how many negative elements are in the matrix. Is it odd or is it even? If it's odd, you pick the one that had the smallest absolute value and you subtract it from that. So I'll just say subtract the minimum, but we know that that is the minimum absolute value. We don't have to do all those steps separately. You could probably just have one loop where you iterate over the matrix and you kind of maintain those few things. So I think I'll explain that in the code. The time complexity will just be the size of the matrix. It's a square matrix, so that should be n squared. No extra space is actually needed. It'll be constant. So I'm going to have a few variables. One I'm going to call the result, and that's going to actually have like the sum of the matrix. So as I kind of iterate over the matrix, I'm going to be maintaining the sum in there. And we could get the dimensions of the matrix, but really we just want the values. The positions are irrelevant to us. We don't really care about the geometry of it at all. So we say row in matrix, and then for every value in each row, I just want to add that value to the result. N here does not refer to the dimension of the matrix, so just want to be clear on that. After we're done, the naive thing to do would just be return the result, but we know that's not always going to work. That'll only work if we have an even number of negative values. So if we had an odd number of negative values, let's assume I have a variable called negative count, and I just already know what the count of negative values is. So if this is odd, you could mod it by 2, or you could, I think it's more efficient to do this, bitwise and with 1. If that is equal to 1, or if it's non-zero, so you could just leave it like this, then we want to subtract from the matrix the absolute value of the minimum. But it's actually even not that simple. I'll show you why it's not that simple after I kind of write the rest of this code. So let's get the negative count. It's pretty easy to do that. You could do it in a separate loop, or you could do it in this loop. So for every number, let's just check, is this negative? If n is less than 0, I'm going to add to the negative count 1. From here, what we said, we want to subtract the matrix minimum. So I'll have a variable from that called matrix minimum, and I will initialize it to a very big number, because really we were going to have the absolute value stored in this. So I'll initialize it to, let's say, float of infinity. That reminds me, when we're actually adding n to the result, it could be negative. So let's make sure we take the absolute value of this. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Let's also update the matrix minimum. So we always want it to be positive. Same thing here. We're going to try to minimize it with itself, which is matrix minimum, and the absolute value of n. Because when we subtract down here, we're going to assume that this is a positive value. We really care about the absolute values here only. So this is all simple enough. Now, why is the solution not as simple as just subtracting the matrix minimum? Well, think about this. If I have something like 1, 2, 3, and the entire sum of this is a 6. If I were to turn, let's say, this guy negative, like that, the new sum is not going to be 6 minus 3. It would be 6 minus 3 if I had turned this guy into a 0. But not only did I turn it into a 0, then I went in the other direction by the same magnitude. I then turned it into a negative 3. So the delta really was negative 6. That's basically 2 times this, 2 times the absolute value of what it originally was. So had I started like this and had I turned this into negative 2, the new sum would now be 2 because I subtracted from 6, not 2, but 2 times 2, 2 times the magnitude of this value. Had I changed this into negative, it would have been 2 times 1, and then the new sum would have been 4. So that's why when we subtract here, do 2 times that. And I believe this is the whole code. It looks pretty easy, but I don't know what kind of genius you have to be to just jump into the solution without kind of going through at least a little bit of the thought process that I had gone through a little bit earlier. After running it, you can see that this code works. It's very efficient. And I know you might feel discouraged if you weren't able to solve this by yourself, but I hope that you at least learned a little bit of how to make observations, how to approach a problem when you have no clue on how to solve it. You might not be able to solve it in the future, but maybe you'll get a little bit closer. That's really what it's about, improving your thinking skills, your thought process. Those are the skills that will actually help you beyond just Leetcode. It helps me a lot when it comes to everything, including business and communication and all that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.